जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंदा जय अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंदा
जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर
जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंदा जय अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंदा
जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर
जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंदा जय अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंदा
जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर
So we are continuing with Sri Chaitanya Charitamrta Adi Lila chapter 4 verse 166 onwards. Kamera tatparya nicha sambhoga kevala Krishna sukha tatparya matra premata prabala. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The object of lust is only the enjoyment of one's own senses. But love caters to the enjoyment of Lord Krishna, and thus it is very powerful. Text 167 to 169. Loka dharma, Veda dharma, Deha dharma, karma, Lajja dhairya, Deha sukha, Atma sukha, marma. दुस्त्यज आर्यपथ निज परिजन स्वजने करई यत ताडना भर्सन सर्वत्यागी करी करे कृष्णेरा भजन कृष्ण सुख हेतु करे प्रेम सेवना. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Social customs, scriptural injunctions, bodily demands, fruitive action, shyness, patience, bodily pleasures, self-gratification, and the path of varnashram dharma, which is difficult to give up. The gopis have forsaken all these, as well as their own relatives and their punishment and scolding for the sake of serving Lord Krishna. They render loving service to him for the sake of his enjoyment. Text 170. इहा के कहिए कृष्ण दृढ़ अनुराग स्वच्छ धौत वस्त्र याइचे नाहि को न दाग. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. That is called firm attachment to Lord Krishna. It is spotlessly pure, like a clean cloth that has no stain. Purport. The author of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrta advises everyone to give up all engagements of sense gratification and, like the gopis, dovetail oneself entirely with the will of the Supreme Lord. That is the ultimate instruction of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. We should be prepared to do anything and everything to please the Lord, even at the risk of violating the Vedic principles or ethical laws. That is the standard of love of Godhead. Such activities in pure love of Godhead are as spotless as white linen that has been completely washed. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur warns us in this connection that we should not mistakenly think that the idea of giving up everything implies the renunciation of duties necessary in relation to the body and mind. Even such duties are not sense gratification if they are undertaken in a spirit of service to Krishna. Text 171. Ateva kama preme bahuta antara kama andha tama prema nirma la bhaskara. Translation. Therefore, lust and love are quite different. Lust is like dense darkness, but love is like the brightest sun, bright sun. 172. अतएव गोपी गानेरा नाही काम गंध कृष्ण सुख लागी मात्र कृष्ण से संबंध. Translation. Thus, there is not the slightest taint of lust in the gopis' love. Their relationship with Krishna is only for the sake of his enjoyment. Text 173. Yatte sujata charnam buruham staneshu bhita shanaiha priya dadimahi karkasheshu tena tavim eta atashi tad yathate na kim svit kurpadbhi brahmati dhir bhavad ayusham naha. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. O dearly beloved, your lotus feet are so soft that we place them gently on our breasts, fearing that your feet will be hurt. Our life rests only in you. Our minds, therefore, are filled with anxiety that your tender feet might be wounded by pebbles as you roam about on the forest path. Purport. This text from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 31, verse 19, was spoken by the gopis when Krishna left them in the midst of the Rasa Lila. Text 174. Atma Sukha Dukhe Gopira Nahika Vichara Krishna Sukha Hetu Cheshtha Mano Vyavahara. Translation. The gopis do not care for their own pleasures or pains. All their physical and mental activities are directed toward offering enjoyment to Lord Krishna. 175. Krishna lagi ara sab kare parityaga, Krishna sukha hetu kare shuddha anuraga. Translation. They renounced everything for Krishna. They have pure attachment to giving Krishna pleasure. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Very nice verses. Again, we are continuing with difference between love and lust. What we see love in the material world is nothing but lust, but pure love is the love of gopis. In all these verses that we read today, it indicates that love is very, very powerful. Why? Because it is for the pleasure of Krishna. It is not for personal sense gratification. It's not enjoyment for the senses, what I can see nicely, touch nicely, hear nicely, taste. No, it is only lust in the material world. If we read the Bhagavad Gita scrutinizingly, we will see Srila Prabhupada clearly explains the difference between love and lust. He says that in the material world, when the boy tells the girl, I love you, he actually means I lust you. This is what Srila Prabhupada says. He explains. But here we see gopis cannot compare their love with anyone else. Gopis, their degree of surrender to Krishna is topmost, absolutely maximum. Why? Because they gave up everything. Everything means everything, whether it was their children, family, husbands, social customs, whatever it was, they left everything just so that they could give pleasure to Krishna. If you remember the past time where Krishna had a headache, no one would give the dust of their feet because they said, we'll go to hell. But gopis, they didn't care. They didn't mind going to hell, but they were ready to give pleasure to Krishna, because if there is headache, do we get pleasure? No, all the time the concentration is, what's the japa meditation? Headache, 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 headache. That is all that goes on in our head. And that gives us more headache because we are completely focused on headache. But these gopis, they were not worried about what people will say. They were not interested in their personal sense gratification. They didn't rush to Krishna thinking, oh, now I will get pleasure because Krishna will dance with me. No, that was not their idea at all. And Prabhupada states that they did not even care about their bodily needs. If you remember reading 10th canto, where they describe the Rasa Lila, when the gopis were, as soon as they heard the flute of Krishna, they left everything and they started running. And it explains that their gajra was falling, their hair was all disheveled, and, their pallo was flying somewhere. They didn't care about anything. All they wanted to do was go there and give pleasure to Krishna. Why did Krishna call them? So that he could enjoy with them, right? And gopis, they knew this is what Krishna wants. And Prabhupada also states that the gopis, they were not interested in fruitive activities, which is very common in the material world, right? Lord, I'm going to do this. Please do this for me. I'm doing this, so please give me this result. Like as if the Lord is the order supplier. We just, make a grocery list and give it to him and say, okay, now this is good. Get back to job. Get back to your job and you please fulfill all these desires of mine. No. But here, gopis, it is mentioned in one of the verses, if you remember, there is a mention of all the things that the gopis forsake, they gave up. One of them was shyness. Prabhupada says the most valuable, the most important ornament of a woman is shyness. Of course, shyness doesn't mean when it comes to preaching, you do your pallu like this. No, I cannot preach because ornament is shyness. No, shyness, it comes from within. So here, these gopis, they were not only shy, but they were patient also. Especially children, they don't have that patience. Wanted now means now. Now means now. Right? It cannot be today, tomorrow, day after. No, now means now. But these gopis, they were patient and they were not agitated at all. Even if when they rush to Krishna to, give him pleasure, if Krishna says, go away, they didn't feel agitated. Oh, what is this? I have taken so much trouble to come and now you're telling me to go home. Uh, don't disrespect me. No, they were not agitated at all. If you remember in Bhagavad Gita, towards the last two chapters, Krishna explains to Arjuna about austerity, right? Austerity of speech, austerity of mind, austerity of the body. And one of them, austerity of speech, is speak in such a way that you do not agitate the other person. Because if you don't, that means you are not able to control your speech. So here, gopis, they forsake everything, whether it was their family, duties, whatever. They forsook everything. And is that the correct word, forsook? No. Learning English. Forsake everything for the pleasure of Krishna. We are expert in creating new things, right? So I created a new word today, forsook. It should be in the dictionary. But they were ready. It is mentioned in the verses and the purport that they were ready to be scolded and punished by their relatives. They were ready for that, but they could not give up serving Krishna. They could not give up giving pleasure to Krishna. Why? Because their whole life and soul was Krishna. Their whole focus was on Krishna and to give pleasure to him. This, Prabhupada says, is the topmost level of prema. Like it is mentioned, Adho Shraddha Tatha Sadhu Sangha Bhajana Kriya Nartha Nivriti, topmost is prema. That is the topmost stage, and that is where the gopis are. They gave up their sense gratification and their entire focus completely dovetailed to Krishna and his pleasure and his will. So Prabhupada mentions that we should accept everything that comes our way, whether it is good or bad. Instead of complaining, oh, this is not right, that is happening, this is happening. If we go to each and every house in this material world, what will we find? Suffering, misery. Open the door of any house. No, don't do that. Knock the door, knock on the door. And when they open, I was listening to my husband's lecture and he said, there is one European country, I don't remember whether it is the Germans or someone else, I don't remember. But when anyone asks them, how are you? They say, thank you. Do you know why? Because they know they are suffering and they cannot tell a lie. What is our instant response? Oh, I'm fine. Am I fine? No, I'm not fine. That means I'm lying. So they say, thank you. Thank you for inquiring. What a nice way, right? Because lying also is a sin. But here, if someone asks us, how are you? Then we start from head and we say, oh, today my head is hurting. My ears are also hurting. My throat is also, it's hurting. And then, just keep going down till the toes. No. Misery is there. Krishna says, Dukhalayam, this is a place of misery. So we cannot expect that there will be no misery at all. But here, these gopis are teaching us that we should accept everything, whether it is good or bad. Accept it and thank Krishna for reducing it for us. Isn't that what Srila Prabhupada has taught us? That whenever there is a suffering, we thank Krishna for reducing our karma. So accept all challenges, obstacles, and take these challenges and obstacles as an opportunity to progress in Krishna consciousness. So, of course, I've mentioned this before also, that this material world is not a clubhouse where you go drink and have a nice chat, relax, and then come back. No, this material world is a place of suffering. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he is talking about following the will of Krishna, whatever Krishna desires. So how do we know what does Krishna want? What do you think? How do we know what does Krishna want? Say, supposing one of you, I won't say myself because I'm not hinting, but if you invite someone for lunch or dinner or whatever, then if you want to please that guest, what is the best thing to do? Exactly, inquire, what would you like to eat? What is it that, the diet that you're following, if you have any allergies to any, particular food or anything, you get that information, and not that, oh, the guests are coming, let me make what I like to eat. Then the guest may not be pleased. So here we want to know, what does Krishna want? How do we know what does Krishna want? Exactly. We hear from Guru and Shastras that Krishna has very clearly told us, say for instance, as far as food is concerned, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam, he told us in the Bhagavad Gita. Then supposing what pleases Krishna, we know surrendering to Guru is what pleases Krishna. So we have heard this all, and Srila Prabhupada, he has given us a simple process, and the first thing to do is strong morning program. If we wake up early, shower, do Mangalarti, chant our rounds, hear one Bhagavatam class every day, then we can start our day. That is called strong morning program, which helps us to please Guru and Krishna, both of them. And it becomes much easier to do that when we associate with devotees. When we associate with devotees, we learn from them and we get motivated by them, right? We become more enthusiastic. Oh, look at this devotee is doing such nice seva, is doing nice deity worship, or, is chanting around so nicely, or, spending so much time hearing or reading Srimad Bhagavatam, then we get motivated by that. And of course, we know the ultimate instruction of Krishna is Sarvadhaman Parityagya Mam Ekam Sharanam Raja. Just surrendering everything to him. I remember long time ago in Mumbai, when we were staying there at Juhu Temple, we were taking care of one department there in the temple, and there were some issues. And so we went to Guru Maharaj and explained to him that, okay, this is what is happening. What should we do? So all he said was, surrender to Krishna. He said, this is a line he said, one is never a loser by surrendering to Krishna. How powerful. One is never a loser. This is what he stressed on, that whatever we do for Krishna, Krishna is seeing. He is making a note of all our sincere efforts. All we have to do is make that effort and leave the result to Krishna. In one of the verses, there was mention of gopis' love to be spotless. And a nice example was given of white linen, right? White linen, which is just completely washed, is clean, and it has no stains on them. Even if there is a dot, black dot somewhere, immediately we catch it. But here, this is how it's compared to gopis' love, that it is spotless. There is no tinge of any fault in their love. So we can consider our hearts to be like the linen. Of course, there are many spots. Some have some few spots, some have many black spots in the heart. So we need to make it spotless. We need to wash it. How do we wash it? Put it in the laundry? No, we can't do that. We chant. How do we chant? We chant attentively. When we chant attentively, then whatever spots are there, they will get washed out. Another important point in the purport that Srila Prabhupada gives is about Bhakti Vinod Thakur mentioning that one should not give up their duties. You know, when some people who read Bhagavad Gita and in 18th chapter, when they hear about renunciation, they say, oh, that means I should leave my wife, children, house, everything, job, everything, and then go to the forest. No, that's not what Krishna is recommending. He's not talking about that kind of renunciation. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur says we must not give up our prescribed duties, duties towards family, duties towards society, maybe duties towards relatives. We must not give up those duties, but we should do those duties in the consciousness of renunciation, which means we are not attached. We love our family, but we are not attached to our family, and that should be done. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says is under the consciousness of renunciation, and that is what Bhagavad Gita also tells us. Krishna tells Arjuna that we have to maintain body and soul together, which means we have to go to work, we have to, earn money so that we can bring prasadam on the table. But in what consciousness do we do that is what we learned in Bhagavad Gita, and that is what is stated here also. But Srila Prabhupada says when we are performing our duties and we are doing it for personal sense gratification, then it is not done for Krishna. If you are doing it for the pleasure of Krishna, then it is real renunciation. So we have been hearing about the differences between love and lust. Even last week, we heard a lot about it. But here, towards the end of 175, just before that, Srila Prabhupada not ends it, but he kind of gives a summary, and he says that lust is like dark, dense darkness. Lust is dense darkness, completely in the mode of ignorance, whereas love is like the bright sun, the love of gopis. That is what he compares. So gopis' love is very, very pure. It has no taint, no stains at all. Why? Only reason is because their love is for the pleasure of Krishna. They are not interested in their sense enjoyment at all. Now, verse 173 that we read, Prabhupada mentions in the purport that this verse is spoken by the gopis when Krishna left them during Rasa Lila, right? They were having a Rasa Lila, and as soon as the gopis had a little tinge of, little bit tinge of pride that, oh, Krishna is dancing only with me, but he was dancing with everyone. They couldn't see that. They thought Krishna is only dancing with me, but I'm special. I'm very special. And then Krishna disappeared, just to bring them back on track. This is just a pastime. It doesn't mean that the gopis' love is not pure. It is just to demonstrate to us that even a tinge of pride can take us away from Krishna, or Krishna can go away from us. So, of course, talking about when they are discussing this verse 173, they are talking about Krishna's soft lotus feet, right? They know that Krishna's feet are very, very soft. They are like lotus petals. And they were worried that when he is going to go walk in the forest, the pebbles may hurt his lotus feet. If you remember the pastime of Yashoda, do you all remember? Yashoda told Krishna, come on, you wear your chappals and go. He said, I will wear it if you can give chappals for all my cows and calves, because they are also walking on pebbles. They will also get hurt. Now, can Yashoda Maya do that? How many cows did he have? Thousands of cows. From where? So here they are talking about the soft lotus feet of Krishna. Now, gopis, they say that their lives rest in Krishna. That is the verse in which he say, why they say lives rest in Krishna? Because of pure love. And because of that pure love, they become anxious that, oh, his feet are going to get hurt. That anxiety is good anxiety because it is spiritually motivated. It is not, materially motivated anxiety. So they are just talking about this, that Krishna, while walking in the forest, might hurt his lotus feet. Do you think pebbles will hurt Krishna? What do you think? He will probably walk maybe an inch over the pebbles, right? In the air. Yes, he'll float. They are not going to hurt him. When Krishna walks, the pebbles will feel like lotus flower petals, rose petals, or something soft. If you remember when Bhishma Dev was throwing arrows at Krishna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, it is mentioned, it felt like roses, touching Krishna's body. Even though some blood was coming out, but that was superficial, it felt like Bhishma Pitama was throwing roses at Lord Krishna. So nothing can hurt Krishna. He is Satchidananda Vigraha. His body is transcendental. So we can see that here, the anxiety of the gopis, which is actually a loving relationship between Krishna and the gopis. Now, verse number 174, it states that gopis, they did not care for themselves. Everything that they did, whether it was with the body, mind, or anything physical, mental, everything was directed towards Lord Krishna, only in one direction. And that is what Srila Prabhupada has taught us, to be completely focused, one-pointed. In one of the lectures I heard, we should be like a horse that has those blinders on both sides, right? They cannot see here or there. If they did see, like we get distracted, from the corner of our eyes, we can see, oh, who's doing what? Oh, who's doing this? We, especially ladies, have that habit. Gents, men will just look straight, or if they want to see this way, they'll just turn their face. Ladies, they look from here and they look from there also. What's going on? Yes or no? Yes, we do that. So here, Srila Prabhupada has taught us focus, that if we have blinders on both sides, then we can directly focus on Krishna. So which means our life should be dedicated to Krishna. Now, how we can contemplate on that? How many activities that we perform every day is for the pleasure of Krishna? How many activities do we do that is focused only for personal sense gratification? What happens after a few years, when we start bhakti, we are in full force, right? Oh, I found something new, something exotic, right? Like for instance, when we go on a vacation.
Hare Krishna, Gita ji.
Yes.
Hare. Could you say Krishna Charanam Prabhu to call me?
Yeah, he's gone outside to give you a call.
Okay, thank you, Gita ji.
You're
Sorry.
welcome. No problem. Where was I? Or when we go to an exotic place, right? So that excitement is there. When is the flight going to take off? We have checked in, boarded the flight. When is it going to take off? When is it going to land? And the moment we reach that exotic place, we're like, wow, what beautiful place. And after that, that excitement is gone. We saw it 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Now, when are we going home? Right? Then that urgency is there. When is the flight going to take off? When am I going to reach home? How many of us are happy to be back home? Everybody is happy to be home. They say, no place like home. We may go anywhere, to any exotic place, but there is no place like home. That is what should be our consciousness. No place like Goloka Vrindavan. Yes, we have come thinking this material world is very exotic place, and we'll have so much fun, everything. But then there is an urgency to go back to the spiritual world. So it's important to understand, are we on a plateau? Have we come to a stage where we are just doing the bare minimum? Yes, I need to do Mangalarti, Samsara Dava, Nanalida Loka, Trana, Ho Gaya, finish. Now I have to chant 16 rounds. Okay, finish 16 rounds. Oh, I've been told I have to hear one Bhagavatam. Let me hear one Bhagavatam while I'm driving or I'm cooking or whatever. Done. Now my work is finished. No, that is called being on a plateau. But we need to, instead of going straight doing bare minimum, we need to make sure that we keep progressing. Srila Prabhupada has taken so much trouble to give us Krishna consciousness. If you all read the Lilamrita, if you have read, we have seen how many obstacles he had to face just to come to the US and give us Krishna, give us all these books. Imagine he would sleep only 3 hours every day. If we don't sleep 8 to 10 hours, our mind starts bothering us. Oh, today you slept less, tomorrow sleep more to make up for the less sleep. He slept only 3 hours every day. Why? Because he wanted to translate and give us all these books. So we should take advantage of that. The final verse of 175, where we see that the gopis, they have renounced everything for Krishna. They are not attached to anything, but their attachment to Krishna is pure. That is their pure love. They only want to give pleasure to Krishna. So this is where we end today's class at verse number 175. If anyone has any questions.